Welcome to the Creating with Beauty podcast, where God's love and beauty flow through our hearts and hands with peace and intention. Here you'll find honest conversations, inspiring stories, and gentle invitations to create with the beauty and wonder already in your life. Beauty is both a gift and an invitation, leading us down a sacred path with Jesus.
What I was going through, and I felt like in that season, there was something in me that was becoming who I was meant to be.
Hey there, everyone. I wanted to hop in before the interview begins and share with you that Jodi's interview was so full of goodies and insight and wisdom and encouragement that I needed to break it up into 3 separate episodes or 3 separate parts, because if I didn't, the one episode would be like an hour and 20 minutes long, which is a really long time, but really full of information. So I'm breaking this up into 3 parts. And this first episode, as you know, is becoming who you were meant to be. And part 2 will be living with eyes wide open. And part 3 is this is the stuff of life. So be on the lookout for those. They'll be released within a week, all 3 of them within 1 week. And I'm excited for you to get to know Jodi better and experience some of her story and God's love and beauty through it. All right, friends. So thank you today for joining me on the podcast. I have Jodi Shaw, my dear friend Jodi Shaw, joining us today from White Owl Wings in South Dakota. And I'm so excited to share Jodi's story and her creativity and the beauty that she puts out into the world. So Jodi, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Melanie, for inviting me to spend this time with you and to be able to share about my work and from my heart. I am I would say a mixed media artist on the prairie in South Dakota. Live here on a cattle ranch with my husband, Jim, and we have 4 amazing kids. Our oldest 2 are married. We have Tom and his wife, Zoe, and then Sydney and her husband, Trevor. We have Erin, who is in her year of cosmetology school. She just graduated from high school in May. And then we have our Rhett, and he is 6 years old, and he came along unexpectedly, but so wonderfully, and has just added so much joy to our lives. And I like to joke that without him, we would be such boring people. So family is at the heart of my life, and living here on the prairie, that influences greatly what I create, and bringing together the things that I love, and that would be just the elements of nature and creation, creativity. I love words and writing. I've loved photography. I love walking on the prairie and gathering. And so all of that comes together in the work that I do. And I love to share that with other people through the things that I make, but also through the processes, and sharing that in classes and in conversation and just in all those layers of ways.
You do such an amazing job of just taking the simplest parts of just everyday life of nature, the wildflowers on the prairie, and then turning it into something so beautiful and so meaningful, and then sharing that with people, and having ornaments or things of sentiment for people to bring into their homes. And so you're just so good at that. I love seeing your work. And I'm also loving the new designs that you're coming out with, like for each holiday. It's like a new way to incorporate the flowers, or the prairie life into the clay and the painting in your color. Really, really special. So I'm so excited to always see when like a new holiday comes up and what you're going to do. Right now, Valentine's is coming up, so you have heart-shaped ornaments with the flowers and stuff. It's just beautiful. So I love how you do that. So can you share with us, like, when did your creative journey begin? Were you always creative, like your entire life? Was there a specific time in your life where, you leaned into it more?
Sure, that's a great question. I was thinking about that this morning, and I would say that creativity has grown in me from the beginning. I have always had like fascination and curiosity about things. So I've always loved to learn. Um, and so I would say that like I've always loved kind of collecting things or seeing a variety of things like rocks, like birds, um, leaves and flowers. Like my grandma, she would press them. We would press leaves and flowers together. And I just always thought that was such a fun, like just a fun process. So just kind of those little things of nature, but also just being really just interested in a lot of things. Um, but I loved to paint, use markers as a child, and I remember making snowflakes at my grandma's breakfast nook table, and my my Aunt Linda, she had given me, when I was 9 years old, she had given me a box that it was a cardboard box, just a basic cardboard box that you get maybe like fruit in because it was a little more sturdy. But she had cut out pictures that she thought I would enjoy and used Mod Podge to cover and encase this entire box. And I loved it.
Oh,
Like, I mean, I thought it was so amazing. And there were so many little details, and I loved looking at it and finding all the things that I didn't see before. And so that was kind of my first introduction to collage, is that I just started doing that to any cardboard box that came through the house. I was cutting up catalogs and doing doing the process of Mod Podge onto boxes and then giving them to people. So that was something that was there. I remember, well, this year, as I was making Christmas tree ornaments, I just kind of had this remembrance of when I was a little girl at Christmas time. I just wanted to I wanted to make things. I wanted to make Christmas decorations. And here I am, in my 50s, and that's what I'm doing. What a sweet full circle kind of thing. Um, so yeah, that's always been there. I was in art club in high school. If there was something to be drawn or painted, for a backdrop or a class float or something, I was right in the middle of that always.
it's interesting to see how the story of the box from your aunt and how that seed was planted and
Isn't
how
it?
much of that is representative today or represented today in your work.
Yeah.
Like when you were telling me this story, I was envisioning the box and then I'm just seeing like visual pictures of your work. And that is just so amazing to like be able to go back and pick a time when you knew that someone had influenced you in such a beautiful way. And here
Mhm.
you are all these years later and it's still just like coming through your hands. So that's just
Yeah,
amazing. That's
isn't that
so
cool? It's
sweet.
fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the seeds that were planted in our, childhood, and how they
Yeah.
grow and what they become,
Right.
later on. So that um, makes me excited to see, to watch that in my own kids too. You
So was there a specific time when you decided to believe that I am an artist?
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember, like in my mid 30s, um, I did, I would say my creativity really, I think with a lot of women my age, scrapbooking was kind of a big thing back in the,
Yes.
2000s. Um, and that was a creative outlet for me. And I looked forward to that on Sunday afternoons and doing that. And in that season, I just kind of went through a shift in my life, um, and in that process, I my scrapbooking shifted from, birthdays and holidays and things like that to a little more introspective and like more of a like documenting my faith walk and documenting what was important to me personally. And so there was something in that process, um, and a whole lot of just a lot of other circumstances that were happening and transition of my life that made that shift from scrapbooking, which is layers of paper, which
Right.
transitions really easily into collage, um, to finding a couple of books. The first one was Taking Flight by Kelly Ray Roberts. I found it in a home decor store right in a season of my life that I felt like I was making a big transition. And in that season, before I even saw her book, I had been just feeling like I kept getting these layered whispers and just messages and metaphors of about transition and about metamorphosis and about caterpillars and butterflies and how I felt like I was changing from like that the dramatic change in me was as like the change that was happening in me was as dramatic as a caterpillar to a butterfly.
Oh,
Like that's how different I felt like I was like what I was going through. And I felt like in that season, there was something in me that was becoming who I was meant to be.
mm,
Um, and just a lot of sweet messages, I think, to me, books that I read and things that um, assured me that, you know, even though I was feeling like a caterpillar, that that season was important, and that actually, being in a chrysalis and being in a season of waiting was good. Like it might look like there's nothing happening, but there's growth happening and change happening, and then that emergence of just a new life. So anyway, I had been just really processing a lot of that, did a lot of writing about it. And here I walk into this home decor store, and here is um, Kelly Ray Roberts' art, and I'd never seen it before. And then there's this beautiful book about taking flight. And her art, if you're those of you who are familiar with
yeah.
it, her art was women with wings. And a lot of people, associate that with angels, which is just fine. But to me, I saw her work and then with the words and the collage and all of that, and it was just like, oh, like that's what I feel like. Like I've been changed and that those wings actually represented, being who I was meant to be. And that transition was where I started to transition into making art. So her book um, was kind of like this sweet cookbook of, art projects, with recipes, I would say, and also telling her story, which was so beautiful. But I decided to make the projects, to do the projects, and then I also bought the artistic mother. Um, Erin was just like 3 years old. She was a toddler. And so I decided to do the projects in these two books instead of just looking at them and thinking, oh, they're so nice. And what that did is it just taught me how to use art supplies in new and fresh ways and also in ways that had already been planted in me. Um, And I blogged, that was that season where
Hmm.
blogging was really kind of taking root. And so I blogged a lot about my journeys when I started sharing on Facebook. Um, and so that kind of um, birth of becoming an artist, I shared that process. Um, and I found back in my one of my scrapbooks from high school, um, when I was a senior, we gave out senior awards and we put them on little paper plates and we cut out pictures and put it on there. Um, and I totally forgotten, but the one that I got, and it was in this scrapbook, was class artist. And it had little stickers on it that spelled out the words, I am an artist. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I am. I am an artist. Before I sell anything, whatever, I am. Um, Yeah, that was kind of a long answer to
No, but that's an amazing answer because it took us through this process, this journey of realizing, what is within you and then embracing it and
yeah,
accepting it and
yeah,
allowing it to nurture and grow you versus not doing that, or like you use the analogy of being in a chrysalis, and how
mhm,
many of us stay in that state, like we
mhm,
don't allow the wings to come out, and
yeah,
so it's a beautiful, beautiful analogy, and I'm so thankful you shared that.
yeah,
Just really, really, and just to see just that story, and just to see, like, and visualize your work and the colors and the things that you use in your work, it just comes through.
mm,
So that's, yeah, really beautiful. And I think, yeah, just, I love how you have story to go with almost like everything that you do. And you really tap into that part of yourself, and you put meaning and depth in everything that you do, and it's just very evident, you can see it. And
mm,
so thank you for sharing that story.
yeah,
I need to pull out my Kelly Ray Roberts books and look at
oh,
and look at
yeah.
them again, because that was really, yeah, a sweet, sweet
Timing.
story.
Yeah, the timing of finding her work and even her own personal sharing of her story was so timely for what I was going through at the time and just really affirmed that process for me. And I remember going into an art store and like taking my little list and feeling like so vulnerable, like buying these art supplies. It felt like, and then I just wanted to like do it in secret. Like I didn't want to get them out at home and have anybody know
Right.
because I was, afraid I was just not going to be like, yeah, it just felt very vulnerable. Um,
Right.
but I also really believe that we need to pay attention to those things that feel really vulnerable, you know,
Yeah.
because I think they're clues to what we really care about, what really matters.
And what, yeah, and what God has for us.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And like, if we
yeah,
pay attention to those
yeah,
whispers and inklings and things showing up in your life, that, like, oh wow, like the coincidence of finding the book and the women
absolutely.
with the wings,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. How, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but how does your creativity connect you to family, culture, and place? I think you kind of went over that a little bit. Do you want to share anything more in regard to that, as far as maybe like your prairie life, or
Sure,
okay.
sure. Well, I think maybe it just might help to just share how that really started and went from noticing to actually becoming art.
Yeah.
Um, we had gotten a new camera, and my husband Jim said, there is this button on the side that you can push it and you can take these macro pictures and you can get up super close to things. And here's, how it works. And he showed that to me. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then I mean, I took it out and I wasn't really, I was just like, okay, yeah, that's neat. Um, but I went out and took some pictures of flowers, and I was blown away
Mhm.
by the detail and like really looking at things close up. I just became super fascinated and very excited, and like what that did for me, like taking a photograph. I even took pictures of ants like crawling around on a ant pile with all these different colored rocks. I mean, I don't have a big affection for ants, but but the thing was being able to see close up and to become really, really fascinated. And so what that did, just that camera, is that I started looking and finding and like treasure hunting here at home on the ranch. I started to see all these things that I had never really paid attention to before. And I blogged about it too. And I took pictures of these flowers, of the sunflowers, the wild weed sunflowers that grow in the road ditches, and the cone flowers, the echinacea flowers. And I remember blogging and wondering in that writing, have these always been here? Like I've lived here for 12 years at that time, and have I
Mhm.
just not seen them? Or have they not been here? And they had to be here because they've been here every year since then, because I wait for them and anticipate them. But so that camera opened that up. And then what I did was I took those photographs and I did some matting and framing of them. But then I took the things that I had learned through doing, the projects in Kelly Ray's book and, the seeds from my Aunt Linda giving me the Mod Podge box. And I started to layer onto weathered wood because I was afraid to like buy a canvas and spend money on something. So I'd just go get scraps of wood and tr practice on that because it felt like my work didn't feel like I should put it on a canvas that I bought, but I could put it on something that I didn't pay for. But, interestingly, what that did was I was taking all of these little bits and pieces and putting them together onto a piece of wood that showed the photograph. And what it really was about opening my eyes and
Hmm.
seeing what's right here. And now I create on weathered wood. Like that's my medium, that's my substrate that I usually, use as my um, basis, my base for my art. Um, and so that opened my eyes to the beauty that is right here, right where I am on the prairie. And the prairie is a place that a lot of people are like just driving through. Like if you're in South Dakota, you're driving through the prairie as fast as you can to get to the Black Hills for these beautiful views. But the prairie is best seen if you stop and you get out and you walk, because
Hmm.
that's when you see all the pretty little details.
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's how my art connects me to the land, and the land, you know, leads me to my art.
A couple years ago, we took a road trip out west and we drove through South Dakota.
Mhm.
And it was the time of the year when all of the sunflowers were
Mhm.
in the ditches. And it, like, I thought about you constantly for, like, I don't know,
Uh-huh.
what, 400 miles? I mean, it was
Right. Yeah.
amazing. It was just so pretty. But there was nothing else, like, except for like those sunflowers in the ditches,
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
interstate. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
really interesting to see something that looks bare, right? That there's not a lot, but
Yeah.
then that is just the beautiful way that you bring the things through with your art, is taking the simplicity of anything really and then turning it into something that you can share and add meaning to it. And yeah, it's really, I'll never forget that though, driving for
Mhm.
hours and
I
there's
love that.
Jodi. I keep thinking of, why do I keep
Aw.
thinking of Jodi? Because of the
Oh,
sunflowers
yeah.
everywhere. So,
I
and plus
love
I
that.
was in your state, but
Right.
yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I totally appreciate it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to share and get this out with the world and let everybody hear your beautiful stories and testimonies. It's going to be wonderful. And also, to where can people find you?
Yeah. So you can certainly find me on Instagram at jodine.s, Jodene.s. That would be my art page.
Okay.
Also, my website is whiteowlwings.com.
Okay. And I will put that in the
Whiteowlwings.com.
description as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Find me there. I do have a Facebook artist page, but everything that I put on Instagram, you'll find, on Facebook too. But those are those two places. And then also, I do have Etsy. I have an Etsy site, and that is if you go on Etsy and you look for my name, and I can send you the exact link, but
right. I'll
Etsy is
put that.
Jodi Shaw. Um, But if you follow me on Instagram, also, I have Etsy. I don't list everything I have available on Etsy. So a lot of people just follow my Instagram and then they're like, oh my goodness, I love that. Do you have that available? And then we just end up, coordinating and I make one for them or whatever. So you don't have to, wait for something to appear on my Etsy site to reach out to me and, we can, if you see something that you like, let's talk.
Absolutely. And also, like I had mentioned, following Jodi on social media is a treat. She
Oh,
shares just the
thanks.
simplest, sweetest things of daily life that are beautiful and inspiring and encouraging. And so, even if you're not in the market to buy art, but I hope that
Yeah,
you do buy her art, go follow her on social media because it's really, I love your posts. They make my day. So
thanks.
when you pop in a heart rock, or I get great joy out of seeing Rhett and all of his
Mhm.
scientific and creative
Oh yeah.
adventures.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
So,
got
yeah,
a curious mind also. So,
absolutely.
but yeah, and anything, that I have coming up, I share through social media. So,
Right.
like any events where I'm gonna take my art or offer a class online or in person. You can find that on my social medias and my website too.
Awesome. All right, Jodi. Thank you
Okay.
so much for being
Yes.
here.
Yes.
And I will talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Melanie. This was lovely.
It
Thanks.
was lovely. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.